Today, we're going to break down the core lessons from a book that absolutely changed the game for personal finance, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And it all kicks off with a piece of advice you've probably heard your whole life. Sound familiar? For generations, this has been the master plan for financial success. It's what our parents told us, what their parents told them. It's the safe, secure path to a good life, or so we're told. Well, here's the thing. The entire argument of this book is that in the world we live in now, that old advice isn't just a little outdated. It's actually dangerous. It can set you up for a lifetime of financial struggle, and you might not even realize it's happening. So how in the world did Robert Kiyosaki arrive at this conclusion? Well, it all goes back to his own childhood and a really powerful story about having two very different father figures, each with a completely opposite view on money. It all started when he was just 9 years old. He and his best friend Mike got left out of a beach house party by some wealthy kids, simply because they were told they were poor kids. Ouch. That one moment just lit a fire in him. He decided right then and there that he had to learn how money works. And lucky for him, he had two dads to learn from. And this is where things get really interesting, because this unique setup gave him a front row seat to two totally different philosophies on how to build wealth, one from the perspective of a rich man and one from the perspective of a poor man. Okay, so let's break this down. On one side, you have his poor dad. That was his actual father. A brilliant guy, highly educated, had a PhD, and was the head of education for the state of Hawaii. But despite a really good salary, he struggled with money his entire life. Then you have his rich dad. This was his best friend's father, a guy who never even finished the 8th grade, but went on to build a massive business empire and became one of the richest men in Hawaii. The contrast couldn't be more stark. And you know, so much of this massive difference came down to something as simple as the words they used. His poor dad would always say, "I can't afford it." And that's a statement that just shuts your brain down, right? End of story. But rich dad, he would ask a question. How can I afford it? And that question forces your brain to wake up, to start looking for solutions. It's a tiny shift in language, but it makes a world of difference. So after a kind of funny and totally illegal attempt to make his own money by casting fake nickels, Robert's dad suggested he go learn from his friend's dad instead. And this is where Rich Dad's first and maybe most important lesson really begins. Rich Dad knew the first thing he had to teach these kids wasn't about investing or starting a business. It was about seeing the invisible prison that traps most people. He called it the rat race. He broke it down like this. It's this endless, vicious loop. You get a good job, you start making more money. Awesome! But then, with that extra cash, what do? You spend more. Maybe a nicer car, a bigger house. Well, that means you take on more debt. And now, to pay for all that stuff, you gotta work even harder, chase that next promotion, and the cycle just keeps going, on, trapping you for your entire life. Now, to make sure this lesson really, truly stuck with a 9-year-old, Rich Dad didn't just sit them down for a lecture. No, he gave Robert and his friend Mike a job. But the terms? They were, pretty unconventional. That was it. That was their wage. 10 cents an hour. Can you imagine? For 3 hours every single Saturday, their job was to dust thousands and thousands of canned goods in one of Rich Dad's stores. I mean, talk about mind-numbingly boring work for basically nothing. He felt completely used, angry, exploited. He was missing his softball games for this. And that 30 cents he earned each week was just enough to buy a few comic books. So finally, he just snapped. He marched right into Rich Dad's office, ready to quit, demanding a raise and accusing him of being greedy and unfair. But Rich Dad's reaction wasn't what he expected. He explained that he wasn't trying to be cruel. This was the lesson. He was letting life itself give Robert a little push. He told him that most people just let life push them around, blaming their boss or their low pay. He wanted Robert to learn to push back, not against him, but against the problem itself. And that led to the big reveal, the single most important idea in the whole book. This was the fundamental difference between his two dads. See, one mindset makes you a slave to a paycheck, always afraid of not having enough to pay the bills. The other mindset, well, that's the one that leads to true financial freedom. So now that the stage was set, Rich Dad decided to really drive the point home. He came back with an offer that was even more shocking, one designed to put Robert on a completely different path. Yep, you heard that right. He told the boys to keep doing the exact same boring job, but now for free. He wanted to completely remove the paycheck from the equation. Why? Because it would force their minds to stop thinking about working for a paycheck and start looking for opportunities to create money that were sitting right there in front of them the whole time. And this really sums up the two different playbooks, doesn't it? Poor Dad's path is all about security, playing it safe, relying on that job. Rich Dad's path is about learning, about creating your own opportunities, and about using your financial intelligence, your brain, to build assets that make money for you. So in the end, Rich Dad Poor Dad is really a challenge. It forces us to take a hard look at the financial programming we all received growing up, from our parents, from school, and it asks a really powerful question. Is the old advice of get a good job the only way? Or is there another way of thinking about money that might serve us a whole lot better in the world we live in today?